Join me as I take on the challenge of figuring out what to do when I'm feeling sad and it feels like God is silent. Dealing with sadness and feeling like God is silent is a struggle many of us can relate to. It's a topic that's often shrouded in uncertainty, but I believe it's essential to tackle it head on. When we're feeling down, it's easy to wonder if God has abandoned us or if he's simply not listening. It's a painful and isolating experience that can leave us questioning our faith. We might ask ourselves, is God really there for me? Or does he even care about what I'm going through? These doubts can weigh heavily on our hearts, making it difficult to find solace in our darkest moments. The more we struggle to connect with God, the more we may start to feel like we're walking alone. It's as if God's presence has vanished, leaving us to face our challenges on our own. Feeling abandoned by God can be especially tough when we're already dealing with the emotional turmoil of sadness. It's like being hit with a double whammy. We're not only struggling to cope with our emotions, but we're also grappling with the fear that God has turned his back on us. This can lead to a sense of desperation, causing us to frantically search for answers or try to manufacture feelings of closeness with God that just aren't there. But here's the thing, feeling sad and experiencing God's silence doesn't mean he's not present in our lives. It's easy to get caught up in our emotions and assume that God has abandoned us, but what if we're simply misunderstanding his silence? What if his quietness is actually an opportunity for us to grow, to reflect, and to draw closer to him in ways we never thought possible? One reason we might feel like God is silent is because we're struggling with personal issues that need attention. Perhaps we're harboring unforgiveness, resentment, or bitterness, and God is waiting for us to confront these emotions before he can move in our lives. Maybe we're going through a season of spiritual doubt where we're questioning everything we thought we knew about God and our relationship with him. Or maybe we're simply experiencing the natural human response to emotional pain, feeling overwhelmed, stuck, and unsure of how to move forward. Another reason God might seem silent is because we're looking for a specific response or outcome, but God is working in ways we can't see. We might be praying for a miraculous healing, a solution to our problems, or a dramatic breakthrough, but God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating events that we can't even begin to understand. His silence doesn't mean he's inactive. It means he's working in ways that are beyond our comprehension. I remember a time in my life when I felt like God was nowhere to be found. I was going through a dark season, struggling to cope with anxiety and depression, and it felt like God was distant, unresponsive, and uncaring. But in that darkness, I discovered a profound truth. God's silence was not a sign of abandonment, but an opportunity to grow deeper in my faith. I learned to be still, to listen, and to wait. Not for a magic solution, but for the gentle whisper of God's voice guiding me through the storm. In that moment, I realized that God's silence wasn't a reflection of his absence, but a reflection of my own limitations. I couldn't see what God was doing, but that didn't mean he wasn't working. His silence was an invitation to trust, to surrender, and to lean into him, even when I couldn't see or feel his presence. That experience taught me that God's silence is not a barrier to intimacy, but a doorway to deeper connection. So what can we do when we're feeling sad and it seems like God is silent? Firstly, we need to acknowledge that our feelings are valid. It's okay to admit that we're struggling and that we're not feeling God's presence like we used to. Secondly, we need to take a step back, breathe, and remember that God is not limited by our emotions or circumstances. His silence doesn't mean he's inactive or uninvolved. It means he's working in ways we can't see. In conclusion, feeling sad and experiencing God's silence is a tough reality many of us face. But it's essential to remember that this silence is not a reflection of God's absence, but an opportunity to grow, to trust, and to deepen our faith. Thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever felt like God was silent, and how did you cope? Don't forget to check out my other video on finding peace in difficult times, where I share more insights on how to navigate the tough stuff of life.